right. Meanwhile, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham grilling Secretary of State Antony Blinken on the drug cartels in Mexico. This was during the Senate Appropriations Committee hearing yesterday. Watch.
Are there drug cartels in control of parts of Mexico, not the government of Mexico?
I think it's fair to say yes.
Okay. Do you agree with the following statement, that fentanyl coming from Mexico is killing Americans by the tens of thousands?
It is, and it's also killing Mexicans.
This as Mexico's president claims U.S. families are to blame for the fentanyl crisis because they do not hug their kids enough. Joining me now is former acting DHS Secretary and Executive Director of America First Policy Institute, Chad Wolf. Chad, great to see you. Thanks very much for being here. What is going on with the president of Mexico? Is he not aware of the drug cartels, or is he working with them, or what?
Well, what I would say, Maria, is I think what we've seen from President Lopez Obrador is the wrong approach. You know, he talks about hugs, not guns. That's what he campaigned on, and that's what he's been governing on over the last 2 to 3 years. I think he's compromised. I think there's a lot of reporting out there that he's embraced the cartels. And so I think he's almost unwilling to go against them and to make some very tough decisions on how do we get the situation under control. There's only so much that he's going to be able to do, and I think we need to partner with him as much as we can. But there may be areas and there may be times where the U.S. needs to take some action on our own to get this under control. We can't continue to admire this problem and watch our young men and women die because of this fentanyl crisis that's almost predominantly coming from Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's so much more than that. I mean, the drug cartels are making billions of dollars just on human trafficking, putting the drug trafficking aside. I don't understand why this is so difficult for the U.S. to get their arms around the drug cartels. It's causing incredible havoc in our country. Should there be a military option?
Well, I think so. You know, what I keep saying is all options need to be on the table. We need to be looking at that foreign terrorist designation that we've been talking about, that folks in D.C. have been talking about for some time. An authorization for the use of military force should be on the table. These are all leverage points to get the government of Mexico to do more. We know that when pushed, they can do more. And we saw that during the Trump administration when they deployed their equivalent of the National Guard to both their southern and northern borders to get this under control. The Biden administration is not being nearly as tough and aggressive as they need to be with the Mexican government, demanding that they do more. They've got to show them the way forward and bring them along. You cannot wait for the government of Mexico to come up with its own solutions. You've got to show them the way and use leverage points to get them to take action. They're not going to do it on their own. Unfortunately, we've seen this, and that's been the pattern that we've seen over the number of years. So I don't see a strategy from the Biden administration to do just that.
And you have an op-ed in the Washington Times titled "All of the Above Approach Needed to Defeat the Mexican Drug Cartels." Right. And you're saying all of the above, but it doesn't appear that Alejandro Mayorkas or President Biden see the risks that you're talking about. I mean, look, the Department of Homeland Security has seized 900 pounds of fentanyl on the southern border in just a week. The agency already launched its Operation Blue Lotus. This is an initiative they claim to crack down on fentanyl smuggling, Chad, but are they doing it?
Well, I think they understand the threat. The issue is they're not willing to make some very tough decisions to get it under control, right? And Maria, you hit the nail on the head, which is to say that the crisis, the human smuggling and human trafficking crisis that we have on the border, they're making millions of dollars every single day on this, and they're putting those proceeds back into their illegal narcotics business, which is fueling this fentanyl crisis that we have. So the crisis that we see on the border with all the images and all the pictures, it's all tied to what we see with fentanyl as well. And so if you're not willing to make hard decisions to get that crisis under control, at the end of the day, then you're not going to find a solution. So they may recognize it, they may talk about it, and I think they say good things from time to time, but the proof is in the action, and the action is sorely lacking. The policy decisions that they're making, resource decisions that they're making, it's not solving this issue.
Yeah. Lou.
Chad, this one hits home for me really hard because my brother died almost 4 years ago from a fentanyl overdose, my cousin in the last year. So I'm desperately seeking, after grieving, desperately seeking solutions, right? It's angering because I'm not alone. There's over 100,000 other family members and people and parents and brothers and sisters that are affected. You lay out a pretty comprehensive strategy of things we could do. What do you think is the one thing we could do right now? I think you mentioned in your op-ed that Mexican government has ceded 35 to 45% of the country over to the cartel. Is that too much? I mean, is it past the point of no return? What can we do right now to have an impact as Americans in this? I mean, it's a war against that's killing our young people.
Absolutely. I think the first thing we need to recognize the problem. We need to stop treating this like a law enforcement issue. I think you've got to take other steps. This problem and crisis has grown too big to simply address it as we have been for the past several decades. And so you got to look at different options, but that first comes with a mindset change. And I don't think that the Biden administration is quite there yet on that mindset change. But I think exactly what you said, Americans are looking at individuals and family members and relatives dying every single day. There's no reason that the cartels should not be public enemy number one, and we should put all of our resources into defeating them and getting this solely under control. There's just no other explanation. There's no other reason to not do this when it's killing Americans every single day.
Yeah.
I mean, does that begin with like designating like some of the attorney generals led by Florida attorney generals making fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction? That designation? Does it designating the Mexican cartel as foreign terrorist organizations? I mean, are those tangible steps that will make an impact, do you believe?
Well, I think it's a start. I think you can certainly do those steps. I think, scheduling fentanyl, there's a number of things that you can do short of a foreign terrorist designation, military use of force, and things of that. We need to be putting more intelligence assets into that area. We need to be looking at cyber operations against the cartels.
Yeah.
There's a number of things and another number of weapons that the U.S. government has. We've used this before. We've done these types of things before when we helped Colombia take down Pablo Escobar.
Right.
We have experience in doing this. It takes some hard decisions, though, because of that neighbor to our south. They're our largest trading partner. There are going to be complications here, but you got to roll up your sleeves and you got to do the hard work to solve this issue.
Chad, instead, this administration has no consequences for anybody breaking the law. I mean, Immigration and Customs Enforcement have now begun scaling back daily detentions of illegal migrants. They're planning to reduce its adult average daily population by 9,000 to 25,000 in fiscal year 2024. Got Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra. He was questioned about missing migrant children yesterday. The New York Times reported that his agency was unable to make contact with 85,000 unaccompanied children. They were released to U.S. sponsors. Watch this.
Every week, I get briefed by my team, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, on this situation with the unaccompanied migrant kids and where we stand. I've never heard that number of 85,000. I don't know where it comes from.
Okay.
And so I can't attest. I would say it doesn't sound at all to be realistic.
Chad, what is realistic? Where are these unaccompanied children, and why are they scaling back the detentions for illegal immigrants when we know they're breaking the law? Shouldn't there be consequences?
Well, yeah, so it's exactly right. There are no consequences for crossing that border, and we've been saying that now for 2 years. They scale back detention because they don't believe in it, and they're very clear about that. The administration's not hiding that fact that they don't like to detain individuals. But I can tell you, as someone who led the department, the only way to repatriate and remove individuals is you first have to detain them. And so if you put no resources into detention facilities and beds for those facilities, that is implying and that is sending a signal that we do not intend to detain nor remove anyone. The cartels know this. They know this better than most Americans. And so everything that you've gone over here, it's like music to their ears. Yeah. It's more and more. They're going to funnel more and more individuals over. And the fact that we have no idea where these migrant children go at the end of the day. HHS just turns them over to sponsors. They don't track them. They have no idea where they go. And so I have been saying that this policy over the last 24 months is the most inhumane policy I can ever imagine for all of those migrants trying to come to the border and to illegally enter the U.S.
So disturbing. Chad, thanks very much for walking us through all of that. We so appreciate your time. Yeah. Chad Wolf joining us.